Is this a return to form for the MCU, or have we just witnessed another fantastic flop? Hi, welcome to After the Credits Roll, where you get casual couch reviews with your host Cowie, and if you're lucky, the occasional furry friend. It's the 1960s on an alternate Earth. Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Ben Grimm, and Johnny Storm are astronauts headed out onto a space mission. And due to some miscalculation on Reed's part, they end up exposed to cosmic rays, which alter their DNA and end up giving them superpowers. Fast forward 4 years, and they might just be this Earth's mightiest heroes, and perhaps its biggest celebrities. The heroes are then faced with their toughest challenge yet, as Earth is visited by the Silver Surfer, who scouted and marked the planet for consumption for her boss, the godlike cosmic being Galactus. All of Earth is now not only counting on them, but expecting them to defeat this grand foe, and the Fantastic Four have got to do whatever it takes to save the planet and their family. This movie wonderfully navigates us through themes of family, parenthood, friendship, community, and the human experience. If I only had one word to describe the movie overall, it would just be wholesome. Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards and Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm are mum and dad. Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm and Eben Moss-Backrack as Ben Grimm are the cool and lovable uncles. This movie made me feel like a part of their family, and the chemistry between the characters is just brilliant. The last time I might have felt this way about chemistry between characters in the MCU is probably between Tony Stark and Peter Parker. Full props to the writing department, and of course to the cast. This was just so very well done, and so believable. Now let's address the world-eating behemoth in the room, Galactus. Ralph Ineson's booming voice, those eyes, that sense of scale. It's so difficult to build fear in a movie with such a bouncy, wholesome theme. And to put on top of that, you've got such a godlike villain. These kinds of villains often end up feeling detached or imaginary, and that takes away from the immersion of the world. There's no such problem here. Galactus is scary, and he feels believable. He's also so self-aware about his own power that even I started to feel that we might get a Snapping 2.0 at some point in this movie. Complementing this is Julia Garner's Shalabal. There are a couple of really good moments in this movie that touch on her character. I won't go into spoilers, but she's another great villain. I wouldn't have minded a little bit more time given to some of those scenes, but I think they did just enough here to build that feeling and connection with her. And that kind of leads me on to my next point, and this might feel like I'm being a little bit nitpicky, but I feel like the pacing was just a little bit fast for my liking. This is just my review, so this is my opinion. Maybe some of you feel like the pacing was just right. I feel like probably another 20 minutes or so just to build the world, build the characters maybe, but also exploring some of those themes of the human experience, which they do really well, but just in a bit more depth, could have done this movie a lot of good. Maybe that's just me wanting a bit more of this movie, and honestly, that's probably the best compliment I could give it. Speaking of world building, this retro futuristic setting is just so beautifully done. There's just something about that American dream 60s aesthetic that's just so heartwarming and comforting. I found myself in awe multiple times in this movie. Some of these visuals are absolutely stunning, and I was thoroughly immersed throughout. I'm a bit of a science nerd as well, so there might be a bit of bias here, but this theme was just right down my alley. One thing especially of note is how well they handle some of the grandiose scenes. The space travel looks great, and as I mentioned earlier, the sense of scale they achieve with Galactus is impressive. I have to talk about Michael Giacchino's score as well. It complements the visuals brilliantly. The sound is the seasoning to this dish, and it adds the necessary flavor needed for those scenes. Put them together, and you feel that warm hug of home, that awe of those epic space scenes, and that fear when you face a world-eating Galactus. Bellissimo. Now, where does that leave me in my relationship with the MCU? I'll be honest, I felt quite estranged from the whole cinematic universe since the end of Phase 3. And that may be because the Infinity Saga was just that good, and Marvel will never be able to replicate that feeling again. But let's be honest, there's been a clear drop in quality and consistency since then, so you can forgive people for becoming estranged and skipping some of the dross that's been put out. We don't owe the MCU our loyalty, or even our money or time for that matter. However, the Fantastic Four first steps might just be aptly named. I feel like this may be the first steps back in the right direction for the MCU and this multiverse saga. This movie covers some great themes. It hits well emotionally, it hits well visually. It's that warm hug, family feeling that's a throwback to the best of the MCU. I feared for a while there that we would never get back to that, but here we are. Look, I'm not going to keep blowing the trumpet for this movie, and I'll stick to my nitpick from earlier. I do feel the pacing could have been slightly better, but in saying that, I realized as I was writing my notes for this review that I really have very little criticism for this movie. This is a great return to form, and I'm so glad to be able to say that. I'm not going to pull the fantastic pun, but I'll gladly give this movie an 8.5 out of 10, and it's left me looking forward to what's next for this phase of the MCU.